all abide in me. But when Christ as well looked at the nature of man and saw how much man had fallen, he wanted to come and die for man. And so I will tell you much more about the no room for the king. And when he came to planet Earth, he walked and he had some good place that he wanted to always dwell. How many people love nature? How many people love nature? That you guys are too slow to respond to good things. How many people love man? This side is trying. I am trying to bring the hotspot this side. How many? I remember one of the classmates when we were doing some examination of biology, and he was trying to get the answer that will save his life from failing or maybe from punishment. He asked for an answer, and that person whispered the answer and said homodont, and he had homodingai, and that is what he wrote. And he became a celebrity up to date. I don't remember his face, but I remember what he wrote on that paper. And so I'm trying to bring the hotspot to this place, and it is so weak. You guys are almost writing the opposite, but I pray not so. And so Christ came very fast, and he had a place that he wanted to dwell in so much, and that place was a garden, and that garden was called the Garden of Gethsemane. How many people love football? How many people love the sports called football? How many people love watching it on a Sabbath? Come on, eh? You can't tell us you love football and you don't love watching. There's a reason why it is put on a Sabbath. I showed you earlier. But there's this commentator which says, same place, same time when the match is ending. Have you ever heard that quote? Same place, same time. Same place, same time for the match. And so it was with the controversy that Adam and Eve fell in a garden. And it was as if the devil was saying to Christ, same place, same time, but not really much the same place, but really much the environment. In the garden, they fell. In the garden also, you will fail. And so Christ came and took human nature, which was acceptable to the temptations of the world. Someone will tell me this evening, preacher, you don't understand. You know, Christ still had some power within him, and that's why he was able to resist the temptation. I'll tell you that is not true. I'll tell you something, friends. Someone will ask this evening that, you know, Christ does not know how to be in an addiction. Christ did experience an addiction. But the spirit of prophecy says this, that when Christ was hungry and when he had fasted for 40 days and the 40 nights, he was in the wilderness, and the thirst and the hunger which he was feeling was 10 times like that person in addiction. And so Christ knew what it feels to be in an addiction. Let me just sip some water, then we can continue. Christ knew what it feels to be in an addiction. And so when he was walking through the Garden of Gethsemane, he brought along his friend. He brought along his friends. Sometimes, friends, you need to have an inner circle for prayers. Not all Christians are meant to share your troubles. I repeat for understanding. Not everybody who is a Christian can handle what you're going through. Some can handle your, and that's why James is saying, confess your sins to one another and your weaknesses to God. Some people can't handle your weaknesses. And so you must be able to have an inner circle. And so Christ had an inner circle. He needed his friends to be by him. And so he walked into that garden. And it is being said that, you know, when I was looking into this, I decided to take the medical line upon the study of the Garden of Gethsemane. And I did a study through someone who was called Candice Lucis. And Candice Lucis says this, that the word excruciating is a Latin word which has been brought from the word crucifixion, since there was no word that could be able to describe the pain that Christ was feeling. And so the Latin came up with a word called excruciating. And so they added the word pain, excruciating pain, to try to have a meaning to the pain that Christ was feeling at the cross. But you know, when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, if you read the spirit of prophecies, you will see that when he got in, he fell a number of times, only to be picked by the strong hands of Simon Peter. And when he was being led and he couldn't even stand to pray, he was so much emotional. In fact, some authors say that Christ won the battle in Gethsemane in prayers than in Calvary. The battle was more in Gethsemane. And so the devil knew that if Christ will lose the battle here, then it is a done case. One other thing that the devil knew, that Christ can never reverse his nature. What he had made, the choice that he had taken in heaven was irreversible. And so up to date, Christ maintains the human nature, but in heaven, to represent the man, to represent like he's our elderly brother. And so the devil knew that if by any chance that Christ falls, then Christ will ever remain a captive of sin, just like man, with the human nature, ever to suffer death and sicknesses. And so the battle was raging. The devils were hovering. And if they were tempting somebody, I believe maybe in the US, they left all the temptation. I should tell my church members that, the devil is not omnipresent. And I told them that if the devil will die tonight, man will continue to sin because it is our nature. And so the devil is not omnipresent. But that evening, all the devils went to the Garden of Gethsemane to battle with one man, where the decision that he will make will affect the decision of hundreds of years to come. The choices that we will make this evening in the Garden of Gethsemane will affect someone today seated right here. And so with every thought, not only action, but with every thought, if Christ will have even thought evil that time, then it will have been a done deal for him. And so there's a point that Simon Peter says, look here, I have a sword. I will be able to defend you when the enemies come. Worry not, worry not. But Christ comes to him and says, get behind me, Satan. And so Christ knows that he needs to pray. One thing that I've never pondered much upon is that why should the Son of God spend much time in prayer? And why should human beings who know their fallen nature, who know that they're weak without Christ, don't spend much time in prayer? And so Christ felt, the need to have much time in prayer. And so it continues on and says that during this time, Christ was so much fearful. He was so much terrified of the events to come that drops of sweat fell by his brow. And he was so fearful that it needed an angel called Angel Gabriel to come and comfort him. Very number of times he said, Father, if this is your will, let it happen. But if not so, please take this cup of suffering away from me. Christ had never felt what it means to be separated from the Father. He knew that with any slightest choice that he will make, forever and ever they will never meet with the Father. And so time goes by and it is medically explained that now Christ suffered something called hematidrosis, which means sweating blood. And hematidrosis is just a bursting of vessels on someone's forehead because of pressure, because of stress. Someone will tell me that this evening that Christ does not know what it means to be depressed. Christ does not know what it means to be left alone. Christ does not know what it means. But I tell you, friends, when we found about the Garden of Gethsemane, then Christ knows much more than to be depressed. Christ knows that it took him even drops of sweat it took him even drops of blood to be mingled with the sweat. And so it is with this process that it leads a man medically to have a poor skin tag, meaning that with any brows, you will bleed thoroughly. And so one step that led to his pain was that sweating of blood. And so after this, we know that the last meal that Christ had taken was just some nights ago. And so it was very early in the morning, and maybe that evening was so cold, just like it is today. It was so cold. And he's sweating down, his pores are so open. He's feeling the pain. And he's also hungry in the human nature. And when all these things are happening, a crowd is coming and they take him. Now, it was a custom in the Jewish tradition that when you are being scourged, they will give you something called 39 lashes. 39 lashes. And these lashes were not just merely any lashes. They will take the whips and they will put hooks and leather belts at the end of these whips. And so with every lash, it will come out with flesh. And so Christ had to maintain his spiritual nature so that he can fight the battle, though his body was filled with pain. And so we go on to look at the medical thoughts of how of how Christ went into this. And later on, we see that when now Christ is being tired, we see some people having some thorns and they want to crown him. And these thorns are being told that in Israel, they have some unique thorns, that these thorns are about 12 inches. And when they make these thorns, and Christ is being dressed with the robe of a king, being pushed here and there. And so during this time, the heart of Christ is breaking slow by slow. And the medical practitioners are saying that Christ is going through something called hypovolemic shock. Which means that Christ is losing a lot of blood and his heart is pounding so fast in search of more blood to be spread in the body. And so Christ also is being faced because the last meal that he had eaten was some nights ago. And so this man came with these crowns and pressed into his head and knocked his head here and there to have the crowns fixed on his head. And so with this knocking, and his scalp is all filled with blood. Sometimes when Christ is walking heading to Calvary, he can't see his way so clearly. He's being dimmed by the blood on his face. And so a number of times he takes the robe and wipes off his face for him to have a clearer vision of where Calvary was. And I'm being told that the geographical measure of Calvary, it was on a hill. And maybe you don't know what it means to carry water on a hill. And so Christ is carrying not water, but he's carrying a wooden cross marching on top of a hill. But when he's looking by his side, he's seeing friends whom he had fed. He's seeing no disciple by his side. In fact, the disciples that were last seen were Simon Peter. And there was a young man who even ran and left his clothes. And so the medical practitioners continue to describe, just like the person St. Luke will describe these events. And so they say that when the robe was being removed by the soldiers, and in fact they tell me this, that the Jewish soldiers were supposed to cane Christ 39 lashes of cane. But since they enjoyed the mockery and they had some instinct, but that maybe Christ will be let loose, they decided to overdo it and go past the 39 lashes of cane. And I'm being told that during this time, most of the people didn't make it to the cross. Many people died with this scourging. And so it continues on to describe the things that were happening. And you see Christ is being put on the cross, and the medical practitioners also do some study on this. And they say that the cross was put in some manner, that your weight was supposed, that the weight of the cross was supposed to hang on your body. That when you are in this position, for you to breathe, you will have to somehow kneel down, and if you inhale, it will cause pain in your chest, and it will cause pain into your entire body, and you will feel some pain. And the issue was not inhaling; the issue was to exhale. And so, with every breath, it was like a lifetime journey. And so, Christ had his worst, almost 1 hour journey. And people took long to die on the cross, but many of them died during the scourging. Very few people took very few people took some short time to die on the cross. The medical practitioners also say this about Christ, that friends, that people are now saying some rumors that after the resurrection of Christ, that the disciples had gone and they're taken Christ from the cross and they hid him somewhere, and now they were going to make something like Christ had resurrected, but yet not. But the medical practitioners say this, that it was impossible for Christ to recover within 3 days. It was impossible. You see, friends, when this whole thing is happening, a soldier comes with a spear, and Christ is there at the cross saying, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, meaning, my Father, why hast thou forsaken me? And it was too painful for the angels to look upon. I'm being told that the Lord had to somehow cover the eyes of the angels for them not to look upon the events of Calvary. And so Christ is shouting, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, giving out his last breath. And when he was about to say it is finished, a soldier pierced him by his side. And it was deep wound that it made water, fluid, and fluid and blood come out in 2 different parts. And so Christ breathes out his last word. It is finished. It is finished. Man once again will have a chance. Later on, we know how it ends. And I'm just giving you a prologue of Calvary to bring this point home. that 2,000 years from that day, when Christ is in heaven, and when now Christ is now the intercessor of man as the mediator, he looks down at man and he wants them to remember something. He wants them to remember something this evening. When Christ now is up in heaven, he looks down at every human being on earth and he wants them to remember something. That look here, friends, lest you forget Gethsemane, lest you forget the agony, lest you forget how the pain that I went through, lest you forget that more than 39 lashes of Cain, lest you forget the thorn of crown, lest you forget. Please don't forget Calvary. Please don't forget Calvary. Because at Calvary, your decision and the destiny was made. At Calvary, someone this day might make a decision that will fail them. At Calvary, there your destiny is more than alive. And so I want to end by reading this song once again, because it was written more of a poem than a song. It was written by some authors who were inspired by the Holy Spirit, and they wanted to remind men of what Christ wanted them to get. And it says this: King of my life, I crown thee now. When he's remembering the crown of thorns, he's saying, King of my life, this evening, I'm crowning thee now. Then shall the glory be. Lest I forget thy thorn-crowned brow, lead me to Calvary. Lest I forget Gethsemane, lest I forget thine agony, lest I forget thy love for me, lead me to Calvary. Show me the tomb where thou wast laid, tenderly mourned and wept. Angels in robes of light arrayed, guarded thee while thou slept. Let me, like Mary, through the gloom, come with a gift to thee. Show to me now the empty tomb. Lead me to Calvary. May I be willing, Lord, to bear. This is the most climaxing point of this song. That may I be willing, Lord, to bear daily my cross for thee. Even the cup of grief to share, thou hast borne all for me. And so it is with this motivation that, friends, when you are exiting as a finalist time, when now you are finishing school as a finalist, Christ is trying to remind you that I've done all these things for you. What hast thou done ever for me? Why are you so resistant in giving your heart? Why are you so denial in making the choice this evening? Why postpone your salvation for a choice you will make this evening for eternity? Why postpone all these things while I took the pain for you? Well, it doesn't take long to ponder about all these things. The medical practitioners are not Adventists. They are not Christians, but they can easily conclude that if a man went all that mile, then there's no love that can be compared to it. It is the eternal surprise of everything, that all through his agony, Christ didn't complain, didn't say a word. But how much often do we complain when we are called to ministry? When, my sister, you are called to serve God? How many excuses have we told? And how much often have we been in the assembly of God and I've heard this truth and I've gone back to the same sin? Christ is saying this, that, friends, it is possible that, even as I end, there's this story that it is a personal experience. I've worked in the maternity for some time. Part of my attachment has been in the maternity. I have delivered both the women, and I have learned to respect women even the more. But friends, one day I was told to go and deliver. And before we do the delivery, you must go through the file of your patient. And behind that file, it was written IUFP. I didn't know what IUFP meant. And so I was preparing for the delivery. And I asked that maybe I should get to be told what IUFP meant and why everybody was avoiding the IUFP. And I was told that the IUFP meant intrauterine fetal death. That it has been confirmed that the baby that you're going to deliver, by all circumstances, is a dead one. And so, friends, I couldn't do that delivery. How can I ever motivate a mother to push a dead baby? How can I ever motivate a lady to push on? Friends, I've seen a lot of things happening, and it reminded me of the sacrifice and how Christ had given all these things for us, and yet someone will be lost. It will be as if a mother who is expecting for 9 months is walking into the maternity to push a dead baby. And so Christ has given all these things for us. And he told, and he reminds us back then in the book of Isaiah that, friends, in this current world, it is possible for 8 children to fail in protecting the 2 parents. That, friends, it is hard for 8 children to forget their 2 parents and to complain when protecting 2 parents. But it is not difficult for 2 parents to raise up 8 children. And so he reminded us that if with that love, and so this current period, he is reminding us in the book of Isaiah 49 verse 15, that look here, friends, can a mother ever forget a suckling child? Can a mother ever forget? Then, the answer is always the fact that a mother shouldn't forget a suckling child. But Christ says this, that yes, this moment they can forget, but I will never forget about you. I did it for you, and even if you are the only person who sinned, I will go through the same agony in Calvary. And so he's reminding us this evening that lest we're forgetting many things, lest most of your attention is being occupied with books, lest most of your attention is being occupied with a good job, lest most of your attention is being occupied with finishing school and being wealthy. Please remember Calvary as part of your life. And so this evening, I remind myself and I remind you that please remember Calvary. Let us stand and sing that song and pray. As long as you can bring your prayer in the prayer box.
King of my life, I crown him now. King of my life, I crown him now. Light shall my glory be. Let us not forget that the crown brown is me to Calvary. Lest I forget, yes, my need. Lest I forget, lest I forget thy love for me. Lead me to Calvary. Show me the tomb where thou wast laid, tenderly mourned and wed. Angels in robes of light array, guarded me while love's fled. Lest I forget, yes, my hero. Lest I forget thine agony. Lest I forget thy love for me. Lead me to Calvary. Let me like Mary through that gloom come with a gift to thee. Show to me now the empty tomb. Lead me to Calvary. Lest I forget, yes, my hero. Lest I forget thine agony. Lest I forget thy love for me. Lead me to Calvary. May I be willing, Lord, to bear daily my cross for thee. Even thy cup of grief to share, thou hast borne for me. Lest I forget Gethsemane, oh, lest I forget thine agony. Lest I forget thy love for me. Lead me to Calvary.
As we conclude, there's a preacher who went to preach one night. I went to sleep one night together with the wife. And when he was sleeping, he had a nightmare. And during this nightmare, he was so terrified that he woke up sweating in a cold night like this. And the wife asked him what was the matter. And he started to say that I saw the Roman soldiers caning the back of Jesus. I saw them lashing him with the 39 lashes of canes, and they were going exceedingly more. I saw the torn flesh. And I was there. I was telling the wife, I was there. I was in the midst of the crowd. And so I ran and I caught the hand of the Roman soldier. Then the wife said that, good, you did a good thing. You are a good man. But the most painful thing, the preacher continues and says that when I looked at the face of the Roman soldier, I saw myself. I was the one lashing him and going even beyond the lashes. And so might be in your point of your life that God has brought you this far until you are exiting this school and you have forgotten. You have forgotten. This evening is reminding you that even if it was you who sinned alone in the entire world, you will have gone through the 39 plus lashes in the garden, in Calvary. Even if it was you, my brother, PM, who sinned this evening, and the whole world was condemning you, Christ will have come all the same for you. He will have walked Gethsemane for you, and he will have shed the sweat of blood for you. And so he shed it all the same for me. Why can't we give him our hearts to him? Let us believe even as we pray. Our Father in heaven, I come before you this evening. Oh Lord, I myself, I am but a chief sinner. I see myself no better than the people standing in front of me. So it is always prudent that in a point of our lives, we should remember. Lord, I know that everybody wants to be remembered in this place in some way or another. Everybody wants to be remembered. And it is so painful when we are forgotten about. That after engaging with people now we can call family, it is so painful that they will forget at some point in their lives. But Lord, also there's a point that you wanted us to remember. That men had forgotten. Men had forgotten the sacrifice that you had made. Oh Lord, the most beautiful part of all this, the surprise of love is this. That though Gethsemane was so much weighted, you don't want us to remember about Gethsemane. Though Gethsemane was so much excruciating and no pain and no word could describe the pain that you felt, you don't want us to remember Gethsemane. And though you shed the blood, you don't want us to remember, though it is much evident than any other. There's no man who has ever shed such sort of blood for another, other than you. And so, Lord, you don't have to, you plead with us this evening that even if we are going to forget about Gethsemane, far it be from us to forget about Gethsemane. But Lord, you tell us that even if we will forget about Gethsemane, let us not forget about Calvary. Because Calvary, our destiny stands. Because at Calvary, our decisions this day stands. And our future stands there at Calvary. For if we forget about Calvary, then all our future is just but gloom. And so thank you, Lord, for reminding me and reminding us of Calvary. Oh, Lord, you have seen your children have brought prayer requests on a piece of paper. Oh, Lord, they have decided to remember Calvary. They have decided to go back at Calvary and plead for intercessions. Others are pleading for school fees. They know that some are just here, but they know that they might not be ready to afford the school fees. But Lord, you are the owner of silver and gold. Some are pleading for mercy and comfort because all their friends have turned back on them. All their friends have been backbite. But Lord, you are the owner of the peace that is with us this evening. Some of them, Lord, are pleading to be freed from the sins that they're fighting. Oh, Lord, you break the chains of every dark sin. Oh, Lord, you conquer the devil in heaven. You conquered him on earth. Nothing, Lord, is too difficult for you. Oh Lord, some are still holding silent privacy within their heart, too painful to be written on a piece of paper. It will shed a tear or two. And so, Lord, I ask you to be their comforter this evening. Oh Lord, I'm also praying, Lord, I'm struggling to stand before children because of the illness. Lord, I ask you to give me strength each day to still preach your word. But even if you want, Lord, you still remain to be God. Thank you for speaking to us. I pray in Jesus' name.